happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. I hope you're having a great Thursday today. It is Thursday, April 15th. It's the 15th day of April. Let's look at our calendar. We've got our little kitten calendar here. Let's find the 15th. We've got the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. Today is April 15th. If we go straight up, we see the abbreviation for Thursday. It is Thursday, April 15th. Well, we've got a very interesting book to read today, and it's a true story. It's called Titanic Cat, and it's a true story about this cat that lived on the Titanic. Let's read this together. Every time Jim glanced to the side, there was the cat flashing the tip of her tortoiseshell tail at him all the way to the shipyard. Some claimed a tortoiseshell cat could see the future. Jim himself believed only that cats were lucky. His father worked in the Belfast shipyard, so Jim knew all the lore about ships and their cats. So there's the cat right there. And Jim says he met her before he even got on the ship. Jim reached the ship, rocking in its slip. Towering above him, its fresh black and white paint seemed to glow in the morning sun. Jim felt lucky to be crewing his beauty on her first voyage. It was his first voyage, too. Yeah, it's the first voyage of the Titanic. Jim's eyes startled with the 4 tall smokestacks. He was then studying every detail as his gaze slowly traveled down to the dock. The same cat was sitting there on top of the pilings. She jumped down and came towards Jim as if she'd been waiting for him all along. It was a good omen for a cat to walk towards you. Jim was certain this was going to be a great trip. He held out his hand and his father said Jim had a way with animals. The cat rubbed against his knees as he tickled her soft fur. Yeah, there's the cat right there. Then the cat turned and disappeared into an open hatch on the side of the ship. A man in a blue uniform came up behind Jim. "Did you see our cat?" "Aye, I did, sir," Jim nodded at the ship. "She just went inside." "Are you here to crew for the trials, lad?" "I'm signed on as a cabin boy, sir. My name's Jim Mollahan. Well, I'm going all the way to America." Jim couldn't keep the excitement out of his voice. Oh, he's excited. "Well, welcome aboard," the man smiled and shook Jim's hand. "I'm Chief Steward Latimer, and from this moment on, you're in charge of that cat." Aye, I'll find that old 401 as soon as I stow my gear." So the cat was named number 401. It was a long-standing superstition not to call a ship by the name while it was being built. That could be unlucky. Every ship under construction had a number. This ship was 401, and the cat would be called the same name. So yeah, the cat is named number 401. There were a lot of places for Jim to look for the cat on the ship, 4 city blocks long. Jim searched from the compass platform on the boat to the boiler rooms at the bottom of the ship, and the smell of fresh varnish was strong in the third-class general room. But still, no cat. Jim's whistle echoed back to him under the glass dome of the grand staircase, but still no cat. Jim sighed with relief when he finally found the tortoiseshell cat on the B deck in Cafe Parisian. Then he saw a kitten beside her. "Oh, so you have a family. It's a fine job you've done, little 401. Jim knelt and stroked each fluffy kitten. 4 new ship's cats in all. This voyage would be very lucky indeed. Jim kept the little cat family in a box the next day as he polished chairs on A deck. The sharp tang of the sea air made him daydream about the great voyage to come. He'd always wanted to go to the sea and see faraway places. First, there would be 2 weeks of fitting out and sprucing up, and then the launch and the ship's trials would begin. So, yeah, everybody's getting the ship ready. Jim worked hard, keeping the cat family close at hand. Once the ship got moving, he noticed that 401 would slip in and out of the box, putting an end to mice scurrying through the galleys. She caught a rat in an oatmeal bin Jim had forgotten to cover in the third-class storage cupboard. It was lucky she was around, he suspected, to keep him from getting into trouble. Jim filled the water tanks above the porcelain sinks in each third-class stateroom. "Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling," he sang as he worked, and the kittens frisked to the lilt of the Irish lullaby, and the cat seemed to study Jim as he sang. So there's Jim singing right there, and we see the little kittens right there. Jim was on the boat deck swabbing it clean with a mop when he spotted one tiny bold kitten venturing out of the box and ducking under a lifeboat. There was no railing where the lifeboats hung. What if the kitten fell overboard? Oh no. Jim squatted by the lifeboat and used his mop to pull the kitten back to safety. 401 watched it with all of her mysterious green eyes. She began licking her baby clean as soon as Jim put it back in the box, as if nothing had happened at all. But Jim always heard the rumble of her purr now whenever he came close. Oh, so she likes Jim. So he was surprised when he stood at the rail 2 days later, watching the ship dock in Southampton. The cat was not at her usual spot beside him. Her kittens were sleeping down below in the box under his bunk, as they'd done during the last 8 days of practicing stops and turns and all-night runs. "Have you seen number 401?" Jim asked the porters and the deckhands. No one had, and passengers were starting to come aboard. "Have you seen 401?" he asked Mr. Latmere, but the chief steward only shook his head, too busy to answer. Oh, so number 401 is missing. Jim leaned forward in surprise. Could that be his cat? Oh, wow, so he's leaning forward and looking, and there's his cat. Could that be his cat going down the gangplank carrying a kitten in her mouth? Jim shaded his eyes. It was her. She placed her kitten in a coil of rope on the dock and streaked back into the ship. He could hear her loud meowing, even from here. A meowing cat meant a difficult journey. Jim knew the old sailor's superstition as well as he knew his father's Irish lullabies. He clutched the rails as he reappeared with a second kitten. Oh no. So she's taking a second kitten out now. Jim's getting nervous. First-class women in silks and furs and third-class men in rough brown wool steamed into the ship, so everybody's rushing in. Jim pushed through the crowd, hurrying down to his berth. Even here, far below the deck, he could smell salt water and fish. It was getting close to cast-off time, but the ship couldn't start her maiden voyage without her ship's cat. Jim found only one kitten. It was the one he'd rescued from under the lifeboat. He picked it up and cradled it. Surely 401 would come back. As he stroked the kitten's fur, he could hear people calling, "Bon voyage! Send me a postcard!" Okay, so the ship's getting ready to leave, and only this baby kitten is still on board with Jim. The call of "all ashore," who's going ashore, startled Jim. He looked down at the kitten cupped in his hands. There was really no other choice. Jim bounded up the stairs and raced across the deck. "You're gonna miss this boat, boy," a crewman called. The gangplank was already being hauled in. Jim clutched the kitten and jumped. An ear-splitting blast from the ship's whistle told Jim that the ship was on its way. It was sailing with his duffel bag and all of his gear still on board. So he left everything behind because he raced out at the last moment. He wouldn't be crossing the Atlantic after all. He wouldn't be seeing America. "I think you forgot someone," Jim muttered, glowing down at 401. "I hope you're happy. Now, look what you've made me do." The cat looked up at him, unblinking. So he's telling number 401, "You caused me to miss my journey." Well, the Titanic is one ship that doesn't need a fool's luck ship or fool's cap for luck. She's unsinkable. That's the finest ship ever built, Jim said. The cat didn't glance up as tugboats pulled the Titanic out onto the Southampton harbor. She was busy licking her kid. Oh, so there's the boat leaving without Jim. 6 days later, Jim was hard at work delivering packages so that he could rent a room for himself and the little cat family. The cat was his friend, despite what she'd done. He'd taken care of 401 and her kitten aboard Titanic, and he'd been keep taking care of them until they could find another ship, a smaller, older, less exciting ship to be sure. Jim was so busy delivering bread and milk, newspapers, and dry good parcels that he missed the first whispers of trouble. Ooh, see everybody huddled up? And there's Jim right there. But the whispers soon turned into cries, and Jim waited with the crowds on Canute Street outside the White Star offices. Grim men in suits came out and said the Titanic had hit an iceberg. They posted the survivors' names. The kitten slept in a warm lump in the canvas bag Jim had slipped over his shoulder. The cat followed close on his heels as he threaded his way toward the throng to get a closer look at the list tacked to the door of the White Star Line. One sheet said saved. It was the shortest. The other one said missing. Jim's eyes scanned the long column. His name was there. So his name is on the missing list. Jim scooped up the cat and looked into her bottomless green eyes. You gave me your luck, Jim whispered, and I thank you. The cat blinked and went back to licking her whiskers. There really was nothing else to say. The end. That was a very interesting story and a true one, too. This is a true story. It was called Titanic Cat. Well, I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye, friends. Have a great day.